Hello, Chris. Hi. Hello,
Hi,
teacher.
Bhaskar.
Hi, Satish. How are you?
Yeah, hi, Bhaskar, hi.
Good morning, Mahesh.
Hi.
Yeah, Mahesh. Yeah, Mahesh.
Hi, Chris.
This is Krishna.
Hi, Krishna. How are you? Hey, how are you, sir? How are you, Casey?
I'm well, thank you.
We can't see you on the video. There you are. Okay, now we can see you on the video as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, should we start? Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sujata Dubey. I'm one of the VPs of development at the IITM Office of Institutional Advancement. And it's my privilege and pleasure to welcome you all this evening on this August occasion. A special welcome also to our friends and supporters who, though unable to join us physically, are joining in via Zoom. This has been the situation since the last 2 years, hasn't it? Joining each other from far away in spirit and in thought to celebrate, to commiserate, and to share our stories. We've been through hell these past 2 years, but we're getting back to at least a new normal. So, more than anything else, this is also a time to share our sincere gratitude with everyone here who's helped us along the way. It is now my pleasure to introduce our impact ambassadors to the audience. Can we start the slides for the introduction? First, I'm going in alphabetical order, is Shri Arjun Rao, the class of 1988 BTech Mechanical, the founder CEO of Value Labs. The second is Shri D. Chandrasekhar, the class of 1970 BTech Metallurgy, and the president of the Madras Dyslexia Association, who has been IITM's major supporter and patron for many, many years. The next, Shri T.T. Jagannathan, 1970 BTech Mechanical, chairman of the TTK group of companies, of whom this auditorium has been named after. Next is Shri Krish Gopalakrishnan, 1977 MSc Physics and 1979 MTech CS, the co-founder of Infosys, and our major patron and supporter over the years. Dr. Krishna Chivukula, 1970 MTech Aero, Chairman CEO of Indomim US Private Limited. Sri Krishna Mahesh, the son of Mr. K. Mahesh, the MD of Sundaram Brake Linings. Sri N. Lakshminarayanan, co-founder of Cognizant Technology. Dr. Lalit Mahajan, 1968 BTech Chemical, Chairman of J. Mitra & Co. Private Limited. Sri Mahesh Wagle, 1976 BTech Mechanical, Founder and Director of Cybernetic Technologies Private Limited. The Murugappa family, represented here by Mr. M.M. Murugappan. Dr. Nirav Desai, 1978 BTech Chemical, Founder and Director of Cybernetic Technologies. Sant Maharaj Rajinder Singh Ji, 1976 BTech Electrical, represented by Mr. Rakesh Sharma from his team. Shri Satish Pai, 1985 BTech Mechanical, the Managing Director of Hindalco Industries. Mr. V. Shankar, 1981 BTech Mechanical, founder of the Computer Age Management Services Company and of Axis. Sri Kumar Suryanarayanan, 1982 BTech Chemical, Director General, the Association of Biotechnology Enterprises. Sri S. Sridhar, Chairman, Strategic Research Information and Capital Services Private Limited. Dr. Sridhar Vembu, 1989 BTech Electrical, CEO of Zoho Corporation. Sri V. Srinivasan, 1977 BTech Metallurgy, retired MD of Hoganas India Private Limited. Sri V. M. Thomas, 1973 BTech Mechanical, the Joint Managing Director of Johnson Lifts Private Limited. I would now like to request our Dean, Alumni and Corporate Relations, Professor Mahesh Panchangula, to address the audience on the journey thus far.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to all our fellow alumni, well-wishers, and supporters, long-time supporters of IIT Madras. I hope I'm audible. It gives me great pleasure to bring this group of well-wishers together and to be able to recognize the impact of their contribution, impact of their support in building this institution and taking it to even greater heights. The journey started about 10 years ago when IIT formally recognized the need to create an organization that interfaces with the world at large, especially the alumni community, and harnesses the power of the alumni community for the growth of this institution. A couple of years after that, a deanship was created specifically to oversee the relationship and the growth of the Alumni Connect back to IIT Madras. And a few years later, that establishment grew in stature to where we established a professional development office that was tasked with raising funds from well-wishers, alumni, as well as from the CSR part of companies to strategically help IIT Madras with new initiatives. Over the past 6 decades of IIT's existence, the government, we must say, has been the primary and a very generous supporter of this institution. They have, in thick and thin, stayed with IITs in general and specifically also with IIT Madras in many ways. That model has created this brand, a global brand that is recognizable today, with alumni present in at least 75 countries, 50,000 alumni in 75 countries, and the brand itself known globally for quality alumni. Going forward, we realize that a government can only build a brand and it can fund our needs, but as we grow in stature, as our wish list grows, we have to figure out ways to support the causes that are in our wish list. And that's where the development office stepped in to start looking at raising funds to create new initiatives, to support some of the new initiatives of our faculty and students. And the impact that we've had, that this office has had, thanks to all of your support, has been enormous. We've been able to create new initiatives in data science. We've been able to create new initiatives in student entrepreneurship. We've been able to dream of putting a fully functional satellite in space. We've been able to dream of creating a Hyperloop equivalent vehicle built right here in India in our campus by a student team completely. These dreams were fueled by the relationships that we've been able to build with our well-wisher community at large and the alumni community globally. So I want to first thank you all for your support over many decades and for stepping up to help us with our helping us achieve our dreams along the way. In fact, all of this has played a big measure in us retaining our #1 ranking for the last 6 years consecutively in the NIRF scale, and for the last 3 years as the #1 ranked overall #1 ranked best education institution in the country. Going forward, we look to you to help us build this relationship and take this even further. With your help, we would like to see IIT Madras not just as the best institution in the country, but one that is to be reckoned with globally. And we require your support, your help and assistance in expanding this network of our impact ambassadors we require your help and assistance to dream of even bigger ideas so we can work our way to being
Recording in
recognized
progress.
globally. I want to conclude my remarks by again welcoming all of our well-wishers who are present here physically. Feels really good to see people as three-dimensional images finally. And I also look forward to a day when we can host all of our impact ambassadors that are joining us virtually also here on campus physically. Thank you very much and look forward to the evening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahesh, for that interesting talk. I'd like to now request our director, Dr. Bhaskar Ramamurthy, to share his thoughts with us on this occasion.
Good evening to all of you, and good morning to a few small number who are joining us from the American continent. I don't think there's anybody from Europe today, right? So this event is primarily of our impact ambassadors based out of India, but I think one or two are right now in America, so they're joining us. And I want to join Mahesh at the very outset in thanking all of you, thanking all of those who have joined us today, and maybe there are one or two who haven't been able to join, for their immense contributions to the Institute. As Mahesh was saying, along with the country, our Institute has also grown and is growing very rapidly. Most of you have lived and worked here, and so it's in India. Handling growth, rapid growth is difficult because we have so many challenges. Some created and some, of course, which are inherent in our because of our history and because of our capacity. So, in handling these growth challenges, we need all the help we can get. It's not only financial, because there are so many strings tied to various sources of funds that we access, that it's good to have a reason, not insignificant sum of money, which has the least strings attached to it, and which has very specific uses tagged to it. And the amount of funding we've been able to get from our alumni and other well-wishers, and in the impact ambassadors in particular, is quite significant. It's not at all small. I mean, just in the last few years, it would amount to easily about 300-350 crores, I would think. It's not a small amount, because most of us run large institutions that, even companies, most of the budget goes for fixed things. It's already committed, salaries, pensions, this, that. And it's a small part of the budget. It's true of the government of India's budget too. It's a small part of the budget that decides whether you're doing something creatively or not, and something that makes a big difference. And that's true for us too. And this amount is not insignificant if you look at for example, our total spend in the same period. So that's why, and I don't think there's any other institution in India that's had this kind of support. So that I must outright mention that we are trailblazers in this. All the institutions are learning from us. We are very happy to share our learnings with them. But we are trailblazers, and we have benefited immensely. We have not used most of this money for the usual things of building buildings and so on. We've tried to avoid it to the extent possible. Wherever the public resources the funding, the support that we get can support those, we have depended on our support from the government. It's only to do something which has a huge multiplier effect, which cannot easily be done, even if public funding was available. And anyway, that there are fairly severe resource constraints on how much support the government can give. It is only for those kind of things that we have tried to reach out, and have succeeded in getting very generous support from our alumni and well-wishers. New research initiatives, certain kinds of infrastructure on campus which you can't justify from public funds. Some top-up scholarships for needy students. Government has a formula for giving it, and sometimes the formula doesn't cover all the needs. But we know that X or Y has a genuine need. I mean, the favorite example I like to give is there was a student who came and told us that, he lost one of his parents, and I think the father, and he said, unless I send money home to my mother, it's not possible for me to continue here. It's not a very big amount. So the government of India can never pay a student money to send the mother home. It's not possible. I mean, to send to the mother. They can pay the students' fees, they can pay the students, food bill and all that at most. So those are the kind of things where we have tapped into this kind of support. And so it's made, and now we are starting this online degree program. It's a very major initiative because the country's goal for the gross enrollment ratio in higher education is to go to 50% from 26, 27 today. And we want to figure out how to do it. IITs have done very well in what you might call linear education at linear growth rates. You tell us to increase our student intake by 25% and we start groaning. How do we do something in certain areas? We can't do it. We know what to do in any branch of engineering, the way we do it. But in certain areas, can we do nonlinear scaling? Can we really reach out with high quality education, particularly in areas where the employment potential is also high? Can we really make our high quality offerings inclusive, offer to a diversity of people and so on across the country, maybe across the world? That's what we're experimenting with right now, trying to learn by trying things and seeing what works, what doesn't work. And in this effort too, this is totally not supported by the government in the sense that, of course, many of the people doing it, salaries are paid by the government, but there's no funding. The students cannot be supported. So even there, some students we know need support. So we are again reaching out to our well-wishers and alumni, including corporate for CSR, to support such needy students. So I think that kind of thing is happening at a good level, and we are growing it. Sometimes we develop new technologies that could have major impact, say solid waste treatment or wastewater treatment. Crisis we are having in the country in terms of keeping our environment from getting worse. And, the decentralized systems, all kinds of ideas. Now, the point is sometimes we develop a small proof of concept in the lab or even on campus, very small one. And then in these kinds of technologies, it's not easy to go to the market because there could be huge barriers, genuine barriers to large-scale deployment, which we haven't learned about. You have to do pilots, very often two types of pilots. One which is large enough for you to learn the problems about your technology, and the next one is large enough to learn about problems from the ecosystem, the people, it's all very often heavily entangled with people's lives. So, and the government and so on. So basically, you need to do that. And there's no way research funding, even if it came from the government, can support those kinds of things. And it's too early for any business to invest in it without knowing, the risks are too high. So again, these are things in which we have reached out to alumni, to corporates, and so on. So I think there are many things we are doing which otherwise cannot be done or would not have been done. But I want to go to the next, what I see, and this is the last thing I want to share with you, where I see things are heading. I think all of us can feel it in our bones that the country is now poised for very, very steady and rapid, fairly rapid growth. And growth has always been occurring, but it's a lot depends on from what phase to what phase you're growing. A child grows from the age of 5 to 10 also, but it's when it's very small, it's a very important phase of growth. And again, when a child is growing from from the age of 14 to 18, it's a very important. So here we are entering that phase where our country, one crude measure is GDP, going from 3 trillion or so to about 5 and then 6 and 10. And I don't want to spend time on this, but if you do your numbers, these are very, very important ranges of numbers. For some things, per capita GDP is what matters. Talk about the life quality of life of an individual. But for some things, it's the national GDP that matters. If you're talking about national security, it's the national GDP that matters. To protect a country of a certain size, you need a certain amount of money, and doesn't matter how many people live in it. So, and when you get to these numbers, things start to change. There are many things like this. I chose national security as a simple example. There are many things like this. So we're entering a phase where we are seeing increasingly, we are getting limited by our capacity to deal with the complexities of what we have to do. Complexities of technology, complexities of decisions on regarding technology, policies, getting it right, getting it such that it is there's equity, getting it such that there is no cronyism. I mean, the whole gamut. It has to be built in, because if it's not built into this the solution, I mean, the nature of free markets and relatively free countries is that whoever can exploit it will exploit it. You can't blame them for doing it. So you've got to get it right and yet unfettered so that it can flourish, whatever you're trying to do. So, if we have some things in hindsight, fairly recent hindsight, you see we've done well. How did our UPI, or how did our all these digital economy, how did it grow so fast? And some other things we've been struggling. Okay, so if you want to see, one example is how do we get our act together in, say, electronics? We've been struggling, or fabs, and even now we don't know what has to be. Nobody really knows exactly the route forward. Everybody has their own pitch on how it should be done. All involving huge sums of money, huge lack of capacity, huge challenges. So how do we tackle? And there are many things like this. It's in national security. It's in I mean, for example, we do a census every 10 years. We ask me, the periodicity is too low now, because our population growth rates and things are all changing very rapidly. I'm very curious to know how many people will actually vaccinate, because in that there's a hidden, of course, there'll be some unreached people and some hesitant people, but there's also an issue of how many are there. I don't think everything is, if you look at the real way they're projecting the numbers, it's all, easily you can be off by 5-10 crores. Okay. So it's not at all clear. So there are many challenges we have. And now, data, it's all, how do you work with partial data? How do you get right conclusions from partial data? Some amount of correct data within that, and so on. Enormous challenges in front of us on how to change the way we do things, how to use new techniques, how to come up with these new methods, new policies, new approaches. And in this, I think, if anybody who's capable of doing something valuable would want to contribute, would want to participate. So there are so many of our alumni and others who have, due to their experience, have knowledge in many of these things. And there are people, there are faculty, there are others outside. The thing in India is that it's not easy for somebody not in government to participate. It's not easy for the government to take such participation also, even if they want, where they want to also. There are many issues. Sometimes the expertise you want may have to be compensated because the person, is not in a position where they can do it gratis. And there's no provision in government to offer the compensation that that person demands, or even is, justifiably worth, because it may be outside their rules and so on. And they also don't have a way to select a individual or come and say, I think you are the right organization to do it. Questions about how do you do that, and so on and so forth. So they are bound. And it's easy to criticize from outside. If you sit there, you won't know what else to do. It's not easy to find this. I've tried, and sometimes those are as important problems to solve as the actual problem. How do you get around these things? So I think one thing is, from the past 20, 30 years, I can tell you that in many things in which the government needs capacity, needs sophisticated understanding, etc., they rely on institutions like IITs. I can share with you the amount of pressure on the time of our faculty, just doing these things for the government, for the courts, for is enormous. I mean, the amount of things we get dragged into, some we don't like. It's just, the reason is there is not that much capacity. See, they can reach out to us without paying us. They can reach out to us knowing we'll do a reasonably good job, integrity and so on. So it's all nice. So they keep doing it. In fact, we get ordered, right? We get ordered by the court, we get ordered by the government, and we keep doing it. So, we know that there are many things on which we can contribute. And I think a lot of others can also contribute. So maybe one of the things we have to think about is how to create these vehicles. How do people who want to, do something, help India take the right path forward, grow correctly, grow fast? How do we team up with institutions like IITs and do this? Because that opens up it solves many of the challenges that I pointed out to you. If you have to do something, let us say, if you want to figure out there's a big question how to do something, how does one go about it, and you want to figure it out. There are a few people who are the best available, who can apply their minds to this. But let us say in that particular problem, you need a fair amount of data collection or surveys or something. Government of India can easily give, without any questions asked, a fairly large, any sum of money to an IIT for doing that kind of work. They can't give it to a private think tank. They just can't do it. It's not possible. Okay. But on the other hand, they cannot hire those people, those few people who, if they have to be compensated. So we may need to bring in resources from donors and philanthropy and all, to create the kind of endowment to be able to support those few highly competent, sometimes expensive, sometimes it could be the best people may even do it pro bono. A lot of the stuff that I talked about, our fintech and all, has happened because of pro bono efforts of very capable people. So, but this, I think, is going to become very important. This whole thing of built around the IITs. I mean, I'm not saying the IITs are the only ones, but the IITs stand out. Built around the IITs, as a nucleus, a certain, vehicles, I would call it broadly, of capability, really honest to goodness capability, working with the government on very, very challenging issues, problems, to figure out what has to be done in very, business-like fashion. And it's what think tanks do in many ways, but there are, if you look at, policy think tanks, they all have their limitations because of, at least in India, because of the way we operate. So I think there is enormous scope for people who have tremendous capability in some domain or the other, who want to get together a few and tackle something that is really pressing. Usually all these things have very little time, the government wants it tomorrow, and work, pull in the resources. And very often when you need, for certain things, when you need a fairly large sum, not spent on a few individuals, just that it has to be spent in order to make some measurements or collect some data or whatever. I think that kind of thing government can support where it makes sense, and they can easily do it. So, and through the institutes like IIT. So I think we should look at these also going forward. It's all going to happen in the next few years because all these challenges are right in front of us. If you take any newspaper today or anything, if you read between the lines, if you read carefully, you'll see all these things, popping up at you. Because the moment you see 4 or 5 different views, all leading nowhere, there's a huge, nobody knows what has to be done. The thing about semiconductor fabs currently discussing is a good example. Please read, just do Google semiconductor fab India and read all the articles. You'll find all views there. From not building a fab to building one immediately, to building it entirely with government money, building it entirely with private, nobody will come, and then some people say, well, how are you going to sell all the stuff? So many issues you'll find all raised there. Okay. And so that's one example, but there are so many others, including very important ones on climate change and energy and so on. So I think all I want to say is all of your impact ambassadors, when I've seen the introductions, your contributions to IIT is of course very big for us, but all of you, I was just seeing, are all people who are making huge impact in your own work. Since most of the impact ambassadors today, if not all, are from India, in your work in India. So if you want to, if we want to participate in some of these grand challenges, I would say, we should look at a vehicle that we create jointly with the institute and others to overcome some of the challenges that face us when we try to do this today. Because these are all, public-private is easy to say, but it's very hard to execute. So actually, the IITs have been the best examples of execution of public-private initiatives till now, because they have the required minimum level of autonomy to get it done, and yet they have the connect with the government to be able to have the trust and support. So I want to thank all of you for everything that you are doing, not just everything that you have done. And as my last part of my address tried to hint, I think there's a lot more to do, and very quickly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for setting out the theme for the evening so well. We now have a small video of the impact donor engagement has had on IITM. Of course, it's impossible to showcase everything good that has resulted from giving back. So we have tried our best to choose a range of samples. Please excuse us if you have missed something important. Thank you. I would now like to request Mr. Kaviraj Nair, the CEO of the Office of Institutional Advancement, to elaborate on the role of impact ambassadors in institution building.
Everyone. I feel truly humbled to be here in this event with all the business leaders, all the leaders and the visionaries around. In fact, the philanthropy in the country is as old as the spiritual foundations of this country. As you know, like Rig Veda has a chapter devoted to charity or dan, right? But obviously charity happened through religious institutions like temples and mosques and churches at that point in time. And organized forms started emerging in late 1900s and late 1800s and 1900s, especially with with the passage of Society Registration Act. And then we started having foundations and trusts like Sir Ratan Tata Trust, and then followed by the activities of Godrej and Bajaj and Birlas and all of that. And after independence, predominantly because we had a socialistic approach, charity developed less rapidly in India compared to many of the other countries, because government took the initiatives to develop the institutions here, right? And things started taking a change as we opened up further. And I could observe 3 or 4 key trends, right, predominantly. One, people became more comfortable about talking about, till then, charity was considered to be very private and personal affair. And for a change for the good, I would say, people started getting more comfortable talking about the impact created. Media started writing more and more about the positive stories of the change makers and the impact created, right? And secondly, till then it was very emotional in nature. So without letting go of the emotional aspect, we also started making it more strategic and impact based as the new generation of people started coming in. We almost brought in business like rigor into the whole thing, right? So we started talking about rigorous and comprehensive due diligence, scalability of solutions, impact, a return on investment, accountability to the stakeholders, all of those as very keywords. And this started really developing very well, I would say so. Right, a lot more other similar changes happened. So, for example, upstream funding. I think instead of feeding people, while that is very important, how can we actually improve the productivity of food production and remove the wastage, right? So, upstream funding also became very important, and the philanthropists started investing their own time, competence, effort, all of that as part of this whole thing, right? Instead of just the money part. So, I would say that it is in this context that our impact ambassadors are best positioned to influence, to guide, to shape, and be part of this whole movement of philanthropic change, right, in India, the whole movement. And it's also in this context that an organization or an institute like ours is best positioned to take advantage of the positive winds of change, to work with the impact ambassadors, right? It could be in terms of, say, working on fundamental research related projects, which can have long-term effects on the downstream, on the social change. Or it could be on bringing the rigor of business processes and, comprehensive impact understanding and measuring things and everything working. And IIT is best positioned compared to many of the other organizations outside. Or it could be in terms of working, be committed, be invested in this community of like-minded people where they themselves belong as alumni, actually, right? And be able to work with the students who, as IITians, will have a disproportionate influence in the future of the country, right? Or it could be in terms of further enhancing the brand of IIT itself and or similar institutes of eminence, and ultimately being part of this great journey of nation building, right? So I'm certainly very excited, and in all humility, I look forward to working with all the impact ambassadors here in taking this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaviraj. But impact is something that's best felt, best experienced. So we also wanted to bring you a few stories from the stakeholders' perspective. In this regard, we have requested the head of our electrical engineering department, Dr. David Koel Pillai, who was earlier Dean Planning, later to be followed by Dr. Kamakoti, Associate Dean of ICNSR, to tell us a few stories of the impact of giving.
Can you go to slide 1, please?
slide 1, it's on slide 6. Okay.
This is
Director Professor Bhaskar, Dean Professor Mahesh, fellow alumni, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's been a wonderful evening thus far, especially watching the video and reflecting on all the impacts that our ambassadors have had for IIT Madras. It's indeed a pleasure to share with you a few thoughts on stakeholder perspectives. I'll do it based on 3 alumni-funded projects. In my earlier role as Dean Planning and the current role as Head of the Department of Electrical Engineering, I have multiple opportunities to interact with our alumni. And what has struck me most is the common thread across each of these interactions is a keen interest that our alumni have to show that we want to give back to the Institute. And if I were to summarize IIT Madras today in my own perspective, maybe I'll show it to you in one slide. Slide number 2, please. This is a campus that you remember as a student, but now with new buildings like departments and hostels, with cutting-edge research facilities, increased student activities for an 8,000 strong student body, and enhanced infrastructure, both for academics and for recreation. And all this growth happening while preserving the natural sylvan beauty of the campus. Next slide, please. Please come with me to the Manohar C. Vatsa Stadium. A flashback to 1983, IIT Madras was hosting the Inter-IIT as part of our Silver Jubilee activities. The month of December brought heavy rain. Inter-IIT was cancelled. The reason was not because of the rain, but because even though the rain had stopped, the track would be unusable for many days. And this has been the story almost every year during the rainy seasons, especially during November and December. And the track becomes unusable. And after the rainy season, a lot of effort is needed to get the track back into usable condition. Now, the picture on the right is the view of the Olympic grade synthetic track in our stadium today. As part of the synthetic track, the ground was raised by 2 feet, installed a well-engineered drainage system to remove the rainwater through a channel. So today, even after a heavy downpour, the water will drain within a few hours and the track becomes usable. And the stadium is open all year round. More than that, if you were to visit Vatsa Stadium on any given evening, you will see a very interesting sight. And you will understand the impact that it is having on the IIT Madras community. It is bustling with activity, people of all ages. It's a meeting point for friends and families. It is a hub for fitness enthusiasts. Many days it's actually difficult to find parking near the stadium. So projects like this, which have been initiated by alumni, have a huge multiplicative effect and with immense collateral benefits. Let's move from Vatsa Stadium to the IIT Madras Space Lab. Next slide, please. IIT-MSAT is a nanosatellite project by IIT Madras students. It's an ambitious mission to launch a space-based high-energy particle detector for particles in the range up to 100 million electron volts and for transient phenomena which last only a few nanoseconds. These stringent requirements create challenges in building the electronics for such measurements. As the saying goes, IIT students have not been told that it can't be done, so they go ahead and do it anyway and do it successfully. IIT Madras satellite project was sponsored by our alumni to the tune of 2.3 crores, major donors being Dr. Krishna Chivukula and Mr. V. Shankar. About 350 students have passed through this project. Each of them learned hands-on engineering while doing work on the IIT-MSAT, and this has ignited a passion within them for core engineering. Currently, the project is in its flight model stage, and we hope to have some good news for you within a year. Finally, we would like to move from the satellite space lab. We'd like to, next slide, please. Central Lecture Theatre, I'm sure you remember that, and the Humanities Sciences block. Recall your student days. If you had to walk from HSB to BSB where our computer center was, it was an uneven path. There probably wasn't even a path in some places. You had to jump over small pipes and a few ditches to get to that point. More challenges because you would have mud and puddles. But today, as you can see a walkway that starts near CLT. It's fully paved. It has lighting for safety at night. It's an obstruction-free walkway. It enables easy access by wheelchair, and it is extensively used by students.
It is probably the heaviest footfall place anywhere in the campus. And it was a total cost of 26 lakhs, which was completed in 2016, also funded by alumni. And we always keep wondering, why didn't we think of this earlier? In closing, let me move to slide number 6. Our commitment at IIT Madras is to preserve and pass on to future generations of students a campus that truly represents excellence in every dimension. Each of you represent the alumni who believe in this vision and have partnered with IIT Madras in different ways. Our sincere appreciation to each of you for your participation. And as we look back on the past 62 years, IIT Madras has faced changing times as represented by the changes in Gajendra Circle. But it has also held constant the core value, which is the pursuit of excellence. We look forward to continuing this exciting journey with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. David. I'd like to invite Dr. Kamakoti to give us his perspective on alumni engagement.
Respected Director, Dean Mahesh, all colleagues, alumni. It's indeed I just want to take over the last 20 years of my stay. My first project that was granted was from the 1986 CS batch, Anil Nair, who was, I wanted to start a CAT for VLSI course. And the CAT tools were extremely costly. At that time, we were writing for funds, but I wanted to start the course immediately. And that came at $70,000. That was my first project that came through. And then there was a 1988 batch, Shrikant Shroff. He contributed, that batch actually contributed close to $60,000 to set up a lab called RISE Lab, Reconfigurable Intelligent Systems Engineering Lab. Today we have 8 faculty and we have graduated more than 25 PhDs, around 80 MS scholars and hundreds of MTech and BTech students. So these two actually had been sort of my career growth, and the real seed came from the alumni. I'm very thankful to IIT Mana. Another great contribution, especially in the early days, in the early 2000s, were these travel grants. And there was enormous amount of travel grants that are made available to IIT Mana. At least 15 of my students could go very easily to attend conferences. The registration fees and everything was supported by this. And that was a very big impact in those days, especially when we had to, tell about our research to the world. Attending conferences was very important, and the student grants played a very important role. These are some things that certainly create an impact in building up an institution or building up a lab or building up a group. On the recent things, I have 3 examples that I want to quote here. One is that when COVID struck India, we have an adjunct faculty, a doctor, who suggested that a medicine called indomethacin, when administered around 75 milligram for 5 days, could completely cure the COVID once you are infected. And this needed to be tried out. And then there are, it needed a lot of funding because we need to pay the patients their testing and everything. And I'm very thankful to Chris for actually providing us once funding around 25 lakhs, and by which we could do about 140 patients. And the results were really successful. And then subsequently followed up with the similar quantum of funding to do a complete randomized control trial. And at least now we know at least that this medicine, if COVID infects, we are very, at least we are confident that we eat this medicine, will be cured. Whether the government is recognizing this or this is a different story, but the trials has been extremely successful. And this timely help when we just need a money this timely CSR help and donation help that comes from the alumni. We are very, very grateful, and we could actually do such type of explorative projects that are very important to the context. The next example I want to cite here is the computer science block that was built now around. It's a new computer science block. Thanks again to Subramaniam Shankar, who graciously gave around $2 million for bringing up that building. So that was a very important thing because we are growing and space becomes extremely important for the growth of a department. And this has been very, very useful and very timely. The last example I want to quote is Pratap Subramaniam, again an alumnus of IIT Madras, has started a center for digital intelligence and secure hardware architecture. We are promoting a lot of open standards. One such standard is on the microprocessor development. It's called RISC-V standard. It is becoming a worldwide very big standard. And Pratap has given close to $1 million to bring up that center. And these are funding which come to us at the time where we need. So when we approach for a funding proposal, the time duration between when we submit a proposal and when we realize that it has been very, very short, and that gives us a lot more confidence to take up many more explorative things. I had these 3 examples. Again, I place on record my deep sense of gratitude to the alumni for such wonderful contributions, especially at the time of need, and that too very quickly. I'm sure with all your good wishes and similar continued support, we will reach very good heights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kamakoti. The next is a news item that we are very proud to share. I would like to request our Dean Global Engagement, Dr. Raghu Rangaswamy, to update the audience on IITM's Institute of Eminence research initiatives.
Thank you for having me here, and I'll quickly get to this update. Many of you know that IIT Madras was chosen as an Institute of Eminence in 2019, and this has really changed many things in IIT Madras in terms of the enthusiasm for research and how research activities are being taken up. Recently, we asked faculty to participate in a kind of a competition where you propose various research initiatives, and then from the Institute of Eminence, projects will be granted. It was really heartening to note that about 370 faculty out of 600, large number actually participated in these proposals, and about 68 proposals were selected, spanning 21 technology clusters, and funded to the tune of about 200 crores in phase 1. The idea is that this will really galvanize research at IIT Madras, and then maybe 10 to 15 of those will really reach some level of maturity that they can go for phase 2 funding, where there will be a lot more money. And we are hoping that these projects will become centers and then really improve the research ambience and research recognitions for IIT Madras. Next slide, please. Just to give you an idea of the kind of diversity of topics that are being pursued, anywhere from data science to quantum technology, earth sciences, complex systems, circular economy, and so on. So there are multiple activities that are happening, and we hope that this really changes the scene at IIT Madras. So one of the things that we have been trying to do, I think this is a very important thing for India, is to really look at how you disseminate the work that you do, and then let people know the work that you do. Not only that, I think you also encourage students to participate in this and so on. So we have been running this IRIS webinar series. When we started it, we thought, 61 some webinars. Maybe we'll get 50 to 100. There have been webinars where we have had more than 1,000 participants. On an average, we have about 350 participants every webinar. And these have been really successful. And the most heartening thing to see here is the number of students and faculty from different engineering colleges that participate. There is a real thirst for knowledge, and IIT should really be opening these out more, is what we learned from this initiative. We are close to the end of this. The next steps are really to take some of these which have industry orientation and then run some roundtables and then really feed them to bigger initiatives, and hope we can talk to alumni and then talk about how we can take it to the next step. The other thing that we are trying to do also is that take some of these technology clusters and then really build them to big centers. That where you can actually do the kind of transformative work that Professor Bhaskar was talking about in terms of really looking at problems at the Indian pan-India level. The very first initiative is to get all the energy cluster proposals together and start a consortium. We have got initial funding for this. And hopefully in a couple of years, this consortium will morph into a center, a large energy center, like the energy center at MIT and so on, and really make a difference to the energy technology that's being pursued in India. So this is the kind of the research part of the IOE initiative. The other aspect of IOE is also to be able to make our campus really diverse in terms of gender, diverse in terms of nationality and so on. So we are really keen on bringing in international students into IIT Madras. One of the initiatives, next slide please, is we have this interdisciplinary dual degree programs, 10 of them, where students at the end of third year can say, we'll stay for one more year and then get a dual degree. And you can see this, all these 10 programs are really in the cutting edge. Data science, you have cyber physical systems, energy systems, and so on. So we are trying to look at how we can leverage this and get some master's programs around these so that we start getting international students coming into the campus. Next slide, please. So one of the initiatives is to make these 10 programs master's programs and not introduce too many more new courses, but with a very few courses, how do we make this into master's programs that we can get international students to come in and participate at IIT Madras. So we are very close to getting this done. Hopefully in the next Senate meeting, we'll have these programs finalized. And the next step is to actually look at recruiting students and generating funding for meritorious students and so on. So what this will do, I'm hoping, is if 4 or 5 years down the line, if you come back to this campus, you will see this as a truly international, bustling campus where the best research in the world is being done. So that's what our hope is, and without your support, we cannot do that, and we have been able to come this far with your support, and we hope that you will continue to support us in many of these initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Raghu, for that enlightening talk. I would like now to invite our director to felicitate our impact ambassadors and present them with a small token of our gratitude. We'll go in alphabetical order again, as in the introduction. We'll start the slides. First, Sri Arjun Rao. He's not here. He's not here. Of the yeah, the next is Sri D. Chandrasekhar, the class of 1970. Yes. Sri T.T. Jagannathan, who has joined us remotely. Sri Chris Gopalakrishnan, and then Dr. Krishna Chivukula. Mr. Krishna Mahesh had actually asked us to remember his father because his endowment was in his father's name. So if you can put up that slide, please. Mr. K. Mahesh was from the class of 1965, a scion of the illustrious TVS industrial family, chairman of Sundaram Brake Linings. He wanted nothing but the best for the country. He showed the way by embracing quality in manufacturing. SBL was the first friction material manufacturer in the world to win the prestigious Deming Prize. He considered this one of the high points of his career. His son, Sri Krishna Mahesh, upon receiving our invitation for this event, responded as below. And we don't think anyone could have put it better. Our endowing a chair in memory of Mr. K. Mahesh was to honor him, his life, and his highly influential time at IIT. He firmly believed that IIT Madras could do so much more for Indian industry as Stanford did for Silicon Valley, and passionately advocated that through his life. We are glad that the resources from that have helped IIT and hope they do get applied towards realizing his hope for IIT making a more direct impact rather than indirectly through its alumni in building Indian industrial capability. The next is Mr. N. Lakshminarayanan. Dr. Lalit Mahajan, who has joined us remotely, then Sri Mahesh Wagle, then Sri M.M. Murugappan, representing the Murugappa Foundation and the Murugappa family. Dr. Nirav Desai, Sant Maharaj Rajinder Singh Ji, Sri Satish Pai, then Mr. V. Shankar. Sri Kumar Surya Narayanan, Sri S. Sridhar, Sri Sridhar Vembu, Sri V. Srinivasan, and Sri V. M. Thomas, all of whom have joined us remotely. Thank you very much for joining us and for your support. Thank you. We would now like to throw open this discussion to the floor and invite our audience of stakeholders, well-wishers, and impact ambassadors to share their ideas. How do we grow from here? People online, if they would like to have a point they would like to discuss, please also indicate online. I think you raise a hand or something, and we will ask you also to join the discussion. Thank you. Yes, please.
We would like to hear from our impact ambassadors. We would like to hear a few your thoughts on where IIT is and where IIT could be in the next few years. Can I request? There's a mic available here in the audience if you would like to add thoughts. We'll have, we're going to create a small forum of this group so we can have more detailed exchanges of ideas. But I thought this meeting was a seed to get this group together to kind of understand the magnitude of the network that IIT has been fortunate to have at its as one of its strengths, and to see how to grow and build this network even further and to help this great institution. So if you have any thoughts, we will, like I said, create a a network, and we will be happy to share ideas. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Jagannathan.
I think you must do a name and shame. You must publish the fact that every IIT guy should contribute 2% of his annual income to IIT, and you must publish this list. So those who don't contribute must be made to understand that they are not contributing. Bhaskar said 350 crores. 350 crores is such a small, insignificant amount. It should be 35,000 crores or more.
Thank you, sir. I think we are fortunate to have several alumni who have stepped up well beyond that call of duty. We do require all ideas and all advice from you to see how we can scale this network even further and to really make an impact. Going forward, yes, sir. Mr. Sridhar, yes, sir.
Sir, Mr. S. Sridhar would like to say something.
Yes, sir. Mr. Sridhar. You are on mute, sir.
Mr. Sridhar, please unmute the mic. Yes, unmuted it, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
What I would like to suggest is that IIT Madras should contribute more to the building of a scientific temper in the country. This sometimes tend to get lost. So science is not just for technologists and for scientists. It's also meant for the wider section. There is a wide society outside who are also fairly intelligent. So if there is some structured manner in which IIT Madras, with its faculty, its students and all that, showcase popular lectures and things like that. Like in Mumbai, TFR outfit, the Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education had started off. But I think somewhere, I don't know how it is performing now. But that, and in Chennai, you have such a vibrant community. So not necessarily engaged in science. But I would like to think that in every sphere of activity, scientific temper is important.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Magazine. So can I get a copy? So that's Mr. Sridhar, I think you cued us on a point that exactly points to an initiative we recently launched called the IIT Madras Shastra, a Science and Technology and Innovation magazine. I'll just I have a couple of issues that are now in the outing. You can see these, I guess. We will have soft copies of this mailed to all of you. And so the core idea of this magazine is to make science, technology, and innovation being done across the country accessible to students, to technocrats, policymakers, and to broadly anyone interested. We believe that in due course of time, we do plan to build a whole community around this idea to exactly do what you're suggesting. So we will reach out to you, sir, for more advice on this topic as well. And this is certainly, we are very upbeat about filling a long felt lacuna in this space of where there is a good science and technology magazine that is that has the gravitas of IIT Madras, the brand behind it. We certainly hope it will help us in times to come. We have time for maybe a couple of other of our impact ambassadors to comment, and like I said, we will have a community. We have several in the room here as well. Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan, Mr. Shankar, Mr. Murugathan, Mr. Chandrasekhar.
This is Shankar. Taking on from director's point on how alumni can associate with the institute or via the institute to impact India and larger issues impacting India. I think if we can consider creating some sort of a platform, you see the challenge is also from the side of people in civil society who want to work with the government. There is no real mechanism. Yes, he spoke about the challenges government has in engaging with civil society, but equally so is the challenge that if any member of civil society wants to interact or contribute to government, there is no real way of doing it. So if that sort of a platform can be created, and they can be issue specific, they need not be generic. I think that would be a very big contribution. And once the platform exists, I think that it is much easier to attract alumni to join that platform.
Sure. If the platform is around technology development, we believe Shastra will expand to serve that purpose. But if it is beyond technology into education and other spaces, we will certainly need to create new platforms. That's a great idea. That's a great suggestion. I know Mr. Lakshminarayan has been very passionate about ICT-enabled education, and that's one of the crying needs in the country as well.
Yeah, just 2 or 3 points. I think the point that Sridhar mentioned in terms of popularizing science in a meaningful way is very important. Shastra magazine is one such initiative. I don't know how many people within IIT know about the book that Ravi Pulakkar has written, Space, Life, Matter. Fantastic book. It inspires young people. So many more publications like that would be of great use. And the second point, to the point that Shankar was making in terms of collaborating with industry, particularly in the research activity, I think there is another initiative that's being driven by the Principal Scientific Advisor's Office, initiative called Smart Innovation at Bharat, trying to build a platform where industry, startups, academicians can get together, pose real problems, work on those, and solve those type of problems. That's an initiative I would encourage all the people here in the department to participate. And finally, education, taking it to the large masses. And there is a fantastic initiative that's been started here in IIT Madras called the Digital Skills Academy, DSA. Professor Mangala Sundar was driving it. Many people here are associated with that. That's gaining traction. And that's something that has to be further strengthened in terms of promoting it across the board, across the country, so that greater number of people can participate in those types of initiatives.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone online or in the audience would like to make a comment? Mr. Murugappan.
I think IIT needs to also reach out, because as India grows, there will be, large industry will fend for themselves. But I think the core at the heart would be MSMEs and MSMEs. And a lot of them are driven by outstanding technocrats and entrepreneurs. And sometimes there is a lurking fear that how can we collaborate with IIT? Where I believe that if we as IIT go out to them and say that we are available and at least try with one pilot initiative, I think that that whole ecosystem can be developed. Just a thought that I have.
Sure. Some of that is happening through the startup ecosystem, which we hope will become the MSMEs of tomorrow. But I think the focus on today's MSMEs is also somewhat missing. You're right. We have time for maybe one more comment from anyone. Okay. First of, thank you all for helping IIT remain number one and grow on its strengths. And in due course of time, we will come back, seek your advice and support as we truly grow into becoming an institute of eminence globally. Thank you all.
I now request Mr. Jawahar Babu KS, AVP, Office of Institutional Advancement, to present the vote of thanks.
Good evening to all. A momentary time travel. I'm taking you to the 12th century, Sangam era. I remind you of the famous Aathichudi, the composition or Tamil poet Avayar's Aathichudi. The starting verse is Aram Seiya Virumbu. The English translation reads as desire doing the righteous deed. This verse stood the time. And for those who did their early part of education in Tamil Nadu, when you hear this verse, you travel back in time, make you feel young, and remind you of your friends, school, and teacher. Nostalgic, isn't it? The essence here is the righteous deed. Our impact ambassadors are leaving a legacy in style and in statement that lasts beyond generation. Your desire, your commitment, and contribution towards quite a lot of activities within the campus is remarkable. All your contributions are truly impactful. These generous contributions, whatever you created, touches us here today in the present and travels to the future also. I take this opportunity to draw the attention of all gathered here to a famous quote by Helen Keller. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. We saw a glimpse of what that so much means in the video what we saw a while ago. And all your contributions stand the time. And that, in my opinion, I'm sure all of you here will also accept, is truly amazing. Thank you all for your generous contribution. Thank you, Candy, for the sake of record. We are indebted to you, to your family and friends. Your generous support and contributions, I thank on behalf of the institution. I extend wholehearted thanks to all our impact ambassadors. On behalf of the staff and Dean of Alumni and Corporate Relationship, I thank our Honorable Professor Bhaskar, Director, IIT Madras, for his presence and gracing this August ceremony. Thank you, sir. We at ACR office extend our sincere thanks to all deans, associate deans, head of department, and professors joining us today. Your presence is a great encouragement to all of us, sir. Thank you. I place on record thanks to all members, board, and office bearers of Alumni Charitable Trust. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. I thank Professor Mahesh, Dean, Office of Alumni and Corporate Relationship, for taking us through the journey thus far. I thank Professor Raghunathan Rangaswamy, Dean, Global Engagement, for the presentation about Institution of Eminence Initiative. I thank you, Sri Kaviraj, CEO, Office of Institutional Advancement, for help us understand the role of impact ambassadors. I thank all the guests present here, and an evening like this was put together by all our colleagues at the Office of Alumni Corporate Relationship, Global Engagement. On behalf of the leadership team, I thank you all. Without you, this evening wouldn't be a grand success. At ACR office, we are embarked on an amazing journey. Our mission is to create opportunities for joy. We know by giving, we are very joyful. We look forward to the support and guidance of all alumni, well-wishers, and HNI in filling these joy opportunities. I thank all the participants in the campus and across the world for making this evening a great success. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, everyone. Dinner is served in the adjoining dining hall. Thank you.